The oldest known pyramid in Egypt? Here at Saqqara.
Finally identify the mummy, known as the Screaming Man.
Egypt holds a lot of mysteries and secrets.
No Egyptian pharaoh was ever found in a pyramid in Egypt.
While many can be called conspiracy theories, some are harder to ignore.
It is the only surviving wonder of the ancient world.
Let's take a look at some of them. Number 1. The mummy named Ginger. This is the creepiest mummy in Egypt. This mummy was named Ginger, who passed away more than 5,000 years ago. It is considered one of the oldest mummies in the region, but that's not why it is famous. The museum claims that they bought this mummy from an ancient antique dealer, but the dealer had a relative who looked a lot like the mummy. From its size to its appearance, the description matched with that of the relative. But here is where it gets scary. That same relative vanished around the same time the mummy was brought to the museum. I'm sure that's a rumor, but does the museum have the actual mummy? Number 2. Aligned with the stars. Pyramids are created with the most precise of measurements. But did you know that the precision doesn't end at the Great Pyramid? In reality, the 3 pyramids of Giza are all remarkably aligned. What's puzzling is how could it have been possible to align the 3 pyramids without any drones or computers? But here is where it gets interesting. Many theories claim that the pyramids are aligned in perfect sync with the stars. One expert suggests that the shafts in the pyramid actually aligned with the North Star when the structure was built. A few others believe that the pyramids were aligned with the stars in the constellation Orion. Some even think that the pyramids were aligned with the sunrise on the winter solstice. It is clear that the pyramids are aligned. We may not know why, but this mystery will keep us in a twist for a while now. Number 3. The Screaming Mummy. An anonymous mummy's discovery left shockwaves around the world. Why was it unnamed? This left a big question mark because Egyptian theology does not believe that people can enter the afterlife without their names. The unknown mummy suggested that it passed away in a horrifying state. But what was more troubling was why it was given an unusual burial.
What I can say about this mummy, number 1, is the age. And I would assume between 25 till 40 years of age.
There were no protective items with the mummy, but the mummy came with skins of goats and sheep, which were considered impure by the ancient Egyptians. What did this mummy do that was so disgraceful that he had to be buried this way? No one knows. Number 4. The pyramid that's destroyed. The Djedefre Pyramid is one of the most astounding mysteries of the country. For years, archaeologists thought that the pyramid was never completed, but only recently was this idea discarded. It was found that the Djedefre was almost as high as the current 3rd largest pyramid of Giza. There are many things about this pyramid that confuse researchers, but nothing is as surprising as its mysterious staircase.
All of this substructure speaks very big ambition.
There is a massive 160 feet long channel in the bedrock that leads to a 65 feet deep shaft. Hidden in the channel is a staircase that leads nowhere. There is nothing connected to the staircase, no chambers or tombs that are visible, and no rooms either. It leads to nowhere. To add more to the mystery, researchers cannot think of an obvious reason why this pyramid was destroyed. All the other pyramids have been standing tall for thousands of years. Then why was this pyramid that's left in ruins? It remains a burning question with no answer. Number 5. Hidden chamber in the Great Pyramid. There is a 200-feet tunnel called the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid. But there's another chamber right above this passageway that has caught the attention of the researchers. The chamber is about 100 feet long and probably 4,500 years old. But scientists are clueless when it comes to explaining this 4th chamber. Most of the pyramids only have 3.
When we found this pyramid, there was no mummy. There were no treasures, no nothing, no hieroglyphics, nothing. What if all this that we're looking at is a decoy?
Archaeologists never found any inscriptions or hieroglyphics in the pyramids, which only adds more to the mystery. Egyptians were proud of their lifestyle, and it shows through their art. Then, why didn't they stamp the inscriptions on the pyramids? Many scientists think that the hidden chamber supports the weight of the pyramid, while others think it is a burial chamber. Do you think there's more to the story? Number 6. The ancient airplane. At an excavation of the Saqqara tomb, an unusual artifact was unearthed, a wooden structure of a bird.
It's estimated to be about 2,200 years old.
What puzzled the researchers about this artifact was its tail. It was strangely upright and squared. This structure neither had the feathers nor legs. It was nothing like a bird. Many called it a ritual artifact, and others called it a toy. But there was one researcher who claimed that it looked like a glider aircraft. That opened an entire box of questions. People dug into the mystery and found that the structure did indeed have some aerodynamic value. A person tried to create the exact model of a real-life aircraft using this artifact. The wood was different, but the model aircraft flew after a slight push. It even managed to glide into the air. So, did the ancient Egyptians know how to build airplanes? It is definitely intriguing. Number 7. Truth about the Osiris shaft. The Osiris shaft is a 100-feet shaft that runs deep into the bedrock near the channel that connects the Sphinx with the Pyramid of Khafre. There are 3 main levels of the shaft, but there is a side tunnel at the lower level that has been sealed off. It is believed that a YouTuber went down there and took some photos, and that's when the entrance was closed to the public. What are they hiding there? Many people believe that it could hold the secret to the many mysteries of the pyramids of Giza, while others think that it leads to a portal to another dimension. Number 8. The Solar Ship. A massive ship of about 4,500 years old was unearthed decades ago near the Giza pyramids, but it continues to beg for answers. The ship was found in the most unusual ways, concealed in an airtight vault and in 1,200 pieces. It is believed that the ships were buried near the pharaohs to help them hitch a ride to the afterlife. The only problem is that the boat isn't quite practical and almost impossible to take on water. Did the ancient Egyptians only use it for burial ceremonies, or was there a much deeper meaning? Here is what one group of people think. They believe that the ancient Egyptians saw UFOs in the sky and got inspired. They back this claim by saying that there are quite large boats in Egyptian hieroglyphs where there are weird-headed creatures aboard, along with humans. Which theory do you think is true? Number 9. An electrical device. A common hieroglyphic in the Egyptian sites is the Djed pillar. This towering column with 3 or more crossbars was thought to be a device by many experts. A lot of people think that it created electricity, and the Egyptians might have used it to harness that energy. If that were the case, it would explain a lot of things that remain a mystery about ancient Egyptian life. Do you agree? Number 10. The mirroring carvings. A researcher studying the Luxor temple found that the temple was made up of glass stones that he called transparency. A lot of people called these blocks errors by the builders, but to think that the ancient people made these many errors seems foolish. Lshaped suggested that these blocks were used as measuring guides. But here is where it gets interesting. He found that there are some carvings on the same stone wall that complement each other. It is like a giant jigsaw puzzle that you need to put together to get the entire image. Here is how he explained it. There is one carving on the wall where there's Amun with lines of boxes filled with clothes. On the same wall of another room, Amun is offering those clothes to the Pharaoh. It is like seeing through a transparent glass and seeing the opposite ends of the same wall complete an entire story.
This brings a completely new dimension into interpretation of certain ancient Egyptian texts.
Number 11. Mummy wrapped in bandages. There was a mummy found in Egypt that was wrapped in bandages, But that wasn't even the strangest part about it. When the mummy was unwrapped, researchers stumbled upon strange writings on the bandages, but the writing wasn't Egyptian. To add more to the mystery, it was a language that they couldn't recognize. After a while, it was found that the writing was Etruscan, a language that was spoken in pre-Roman Italy.
It was modified by the Etruscans to produce their unique writing, which was written from right to left.
But how did it get all the way to Egypt? What's interesting is that the bandages were wrapped around the mummy after the 30-year-old woman had passed away. What was her connection with the language? But the discovery itself was equally stunning. There were no surviving examples of the language except the cryptic words found on the bandages. It was the only complete text found in the language. Sadly, there is little to no understanding of the language. The researchers are left scratching their heads, trying to decode the ancient writings, but so far, no luck. Number 12. The Lost Labyrinth. As per the legend, it was a common myth that there was a vast network of chambers, corridors, and courtyards near the pyramid. The structure was so massive that it put the pyramids to shame.
The ground-penetrating radar conducted a survey under the foundation of Petrie. A vast grid of walls underneath the stone flat laid was discovered.
With 2 floors to the giant structure, there were nearly 3,000 rooms in this giant maze. But this claim is no longer a myth, but an actual discovery. That's what the scientists think, at least. A temple site was found below the plateau that researchers think looks a lot like the labyrinth. The site has not yet been excavated yet, although this study came back in 2008. A lot of people argued that the researcher was lying about having found the labyrinth, but there is no proof saying that he didn't find the labyrinth either. What do you think? Is it a myth or a lost treasure waiting to be found? Number 13. The Banned Book. The Book of Enoch has been the center of attention for a long time. It is known as the book that was removed from the Bible. What did it hide that was so controversial? The original version was found in the Qumran caves, but a few pages and fragments were then unearthed in Egypt. The early fathers of the church did not think of the Book of Enoch as the scripture, but people think that the Bible itself is inspired by the Book of Enoch. There are a bunch of verses of Jude that match with that of Enoch, but that's not all that is there about this banned book. Experts think that the real reason that the book was excluded was because of its mention of violent hybrids and other mythical concepts. The book also talks about multiple heavens and God holding court for people's sins. But the reason why most experts think that Enoch was banned was because Enoch himself didn't author the book. Do you agree? Number 14. The Sphinx is much older. A lot of experts have found traces of erosion near the Sphinx. Here's why it is important. It hasn't rained in the area for the past 5,000 to 7,000 years. That's not only much older than the pyramids, but it also suggests that the ancient Egyptians had no obvious connection with these large monumental structures. But there's more. The erosion found near the Sphinx.
The Sphinx that we know today, the Sphinx from the Great Pyramids of Giza,
could only have happened because of rain. A lot of people oppose this theory, but there isn't any proof to debunk either of the sides on this debate. What do you think? Number 15. The Golden Library. The Sphinx itself is not the most uncommon thing you'd spot in Egypt, but even in that massive structure lies so many secrets that baffle scientists to this day. The Osiris shaft led the researchers to open up the discussion that there's something hiding underneath the pyramids. What they found:
over the centuries, secret chambers, shafts, and elaborate tunnel systems have indeed been discovered all around the Giza Plateau.
Was an entire network of unexplored tunnels and chambers. These cavities were discovered not only underneath the Sphinx, but around it as well. Years before this discovery, a researcher claimed that there was a pyramid-shaped interior that he called the Hall of the Treasures of Knowledge. He claimed that there were many valuable artifacts from Atlantis there too, and the hidden door was right under the Sphinx's right paw. Sounds familiar? These claims were made way back in the year 1999. Number 16. The Sphinx's real face. Did you know that the Sphinx wasn't how it looks like today? Apart from the obvious cracks, there was a lot more to the Sphinx that researchers have found. The Sphinx not only had a nose that was destroyed, but it also had a beard and a regal headdress. There were even traces of paint found on the structure. So, was the Sphinx created to honor Khafra? If so, why did he put his head on the body of a lion? Some experts dug out cat skeletons to see if the cat obsession was the reason behind creating this massive structure. She did show that the cats were mummified as part of rituals, but does it really prove the creation of the hybrid statue? Here is where it gets interesting. The head of the statue is far larger than the body of the Sphinx. It does give a slight hint that maybe Egyptians did not build the Sphinx. They found the unique structure and stamped the pharaoh's head on it. What do you think? Number 17. Aliens with insect heads. The scarab beetle is quite an extraordinary animal, but its alien-like characteristics have gotten the scientists thinking. Does this beetle have anything to do with aliens? If you look at ancient Egyptian life, you'll find scarab beetles everywhere, in their art, in hieroglyphics, throughout the temples, and even as mummies. This tiny bug is everywhere. You will even spot these beetles in their funeral rituals. Ancient astrology theorists think that these human figures with scarab heads suggest that the ancient Egyptians were inspired by aliens. They had some contact with aliens that looked like insects and carved it on their walls. These people were pretty proud of perpetuating their lives on the walls. So you can't help but think, did these creatures on the walls actually exist? Did they meet aliens? Some experts firmly believe so. Number 18. The L-shaped structure. You thought that the pyramids were the only mysterious thing in Egypt, but you haven't gone underground yet. The archaeologists found an L-shaped structure hidden underground near the Giza pyramids. This anomaly is roughly 6.5 feet in depth and runs for nearly 33 feet. Experts think that it is either filled with sand after it was constructed or it is an air void. They aren't sure what the structure represents, but are eager to dig deep and find out. But they don't think the anomaly is natural. The structure is too sharp and is definitely made by man. What do you think it is hiding? Number 19. The Curse of the Pharaohs. King Tut passed away nearly 3,000 years ago. His body was sealed in a tomb where it remained buried and untouched. That is until Howard Carter and his team decided to crack open the seal. One fine day, in the year 1922, the team went ahead to dig up the body and were exposed to the curse of the pharaoh. Not long after the tomb was opened, 7 members of the team reportedly passed away. That's how the rumors of the curse started floating around. Not only the team members, but a bunch of visitors also fell victim to the curse, as it is believed. From Carter's secretary and benefactor to the person who x-rayed the mummy, all the people passed away due to mysterious reasons. Even Carter's father was not relieved of the curse and took away his own life. Even Carter passed away unhappy and isolated at the age of 64. Do you think it's fiction or truth? Number 20. Did aliens build the pyramids? The construction of the pyramids is no joke. It is something that still baffles scientists to this very day. The thing about the Great Pyramid is that it is aligned very, very close to the true north. That's quite unlike any structure on Earth. Even if we take the Earth's axis, which has been shifting over time, it gets even more fascinating. Did it point at the true north precisely back when it was built? Forget the precision of the construction for a second. The placement of the pyramid itself is so accurate that Egyptologists do not have a straight answer for it. The Great Pyramid sits at the center of the world's land mass.
The Great Pyramid was built at the level of technological sophistication far in excess of anything that we have today.
It is made up of 2 million blocks, but they are put so close to each other that you can't pass a single piece of paper past the bricks. If that fact is crazy, hear this. The Great Pyramid might just be the miniature version of Earth. The pyramid's base is almost equal to the distance around the equator. As for the pyramid's height, it corresponds to the distance from the equator to the North Pole. Simply put, the pyramid's measurements align closely with the actual dimensions of the Earth. Who has a vantage point on Earth? Not humans, of course. So, to think that aliens might have built this precise structure doesn't seem so crazy, does it? Number 21. The Mankiller Tunnel. At a height of 260 feet on the side of the Great Pyramid was a very small opening. Near that opening was a tunnel that ran 36 feet long. The scientists were shocked. What was it doing there? The tunnel was filled with sandstones and debris. Archaeologists named it the Mankiller Tunnel because if you slide down the shaft, you'd get caught up in an avalanche. The tunnel was found to lead to a smaller shaft that ended up connecting with the Great Gallery. Since it did not lead to the chambers themselves, there is a lot of debate on what's its use. You can't fit a human inside. So, was it built later by a bunch of looters? Did it have another secret purpose? Who threw the giant metal piece down the shaft that was discovered at the end of the tunnel? We can only ask questions for now. Number 22. The Strange Disc. This is the Sabu Disc. It is believed by scientists that this gives us clues about how the ancient Egyptians were far more advanced than it is intended. This disc was found in an excavation, along with pottery and knives. But the reason why this stood out was because this is the only piece of its kind. What's fascinating is not just its material, but its design as well. People have tried replicating this design and have failed, time and time again. Some think that it is an ancient impeller that worked at displacing water, but the material isn't strong enough to pump the water. Many experts think that this wheel was designed as a replica of a metallic object that was probably left behind by a civilization much older than the ancient Egyptians. A few engineers from Airbus claimed that a model of this artifact did have aerodynamic properties. While these all are interesting theories, they are quite on the extreme ends of the spectrum. So, it will remain a mystery for now. Number 23. The Missing Capstone. The Great Pyramid is flat at the top because it is missing its capstone. But what scientists cannot figure out is where did it go? The capstone is the most important part of the pyramid. Usually put after the pyramid is near its final stages. So, did the ancient Egyptians just casually leave it out? Why did they even build the pyramid then? But here is where it gets interesting. The capstone is believed to have been made of gold or covered by a layer of gold.
Builders of ancient Egypt made it out of granite and limestone and covered it with gold.
It was so bright that it lit up the night sky and could have even been spotted from space. Archaeologists think that the gold capstone was used to absorb the sun's energy. Why the Egyptians might need this technology is unclear, but there are other people with a very different but interesting theory. They think that the capstone was a key to the Great Pyramid that turned it on like a machine. Without that capstone, the pyramid is merely a quiet structure. If that truly is the case, who stole the capstone? Thieves hungry for gold, or aliens scared of the misuse of the high-tech machine? Number 24. Drilled hole in the cylinder. By the looks of it, this giant cylinder probably looks like rubble, but it has kept scientists puzzled ever since it was unearthed. You see that hole in the cylinder made of red granite? It is not practically possible to do it without a modern-day diamond-tip power drill. You see the problem? The ancient Egyptians had mere copper tools. How could they have possibly designed this? To add more to the enigma, the cylinder has grooves that have no breaks. It could only have been made by a power drill rotating at blazing speeds. How the Egyptians managed to make this will remain a mystery. Number 25. Are pyramids power plants? The obelisks are quite a work of art, but here is why they are pretty strange. Obelisks aren't made of any ordinary rock. They are made up of granite that has the extraordinary quartz stone. If you squeeze it tight enough, you can generate electricity. Many people already believe that obelisks were like lightning rods that could absorb energy. Here is where it gets interesting. The Great Pyramid is also made up of the same stones. Egyptologists think that the Great Pyramid worked as a power plant, and the obelisks were used to attract that energy from the pyramids. Some experts think that chemical reactions took place in the Great Pyramid that generated electromagnetic waves. There is proof that hydrogen was fed down one of the chambers of the pyramid, so this theory isn't just a midnight thought. That's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button and hit subscribe, and be sure to tell us which one of these Egyptian mysteries is your favorite. Until next time, goodbye.